Hello, Internet. My name is Chamomile.
And this court is now in order. Chamomile, if that is your real name, you stand accused of defaming me with a libelous accusation of always fighting werewolves.
What's wrong with the judge? Was the kangaroo busy?
It's an owl, obviously, who will also be a judge.
Can owls take the bar?
Yeah, yeah. Anyways, a few days ago, Chamomile posted an image during one of these episodes that had a insinuated that I only write twink werewolves, which is just very clearly not true.
I've told you, I like a good twink werewolf.
And I am seeking the death penalty.
Okay, well, I mean, in any reasonable court, this would obviously be thrown out immediately under the grounds that it was an image, which means it was neither spoken, which would potentially be slander, nor is it written, which could potentially be libel. It was an image, which doesn't fall under either of those two definitions, and is therefore totally immune to the law.
I will open my case by pointing out that I came up with Flevin, who is essentially a werewolf. He has a human form and he's wolf form, and he is very clearly a twunk. And then, look, we've got a werewolf here to testify on my behalf. Your Honor, the prosecution rests. Judge Al says that he's going to wait till after the episode to reach his verdict, so...
I mean, you say that you came up with Blevin, but I mean, you had a name, a stat block, and a picture.
Yeah. I could have found a picture that was a twink, and I did not. The picture I found, and we can even insert it into this episode, was very clearly a twunk.
I mean, I forget what the picture actually was, so we'll see what YouTube thinks of it. If this video gets demonetized, you know why. Not that it was monetized in the first place, so I guess I guess that's probably not happening one way or the other.
It's not like explicit or anything.
Strike with all your might.
I mean, I know there have been some of these where they had to be strategically cropped for the token.
It's not like you're gonna put the whole image in if it was strategically cropped. I mean...
I don't know, it seems like something I'd do.
Looks like Kiernan has leveled up. And one of the strategically cropped images is on your end.
This is true, but that is because I searched for Twink Barbarian and was unable to find anything but twunks, which does make me doubt your I could have found a twink if I wanted to story.
Arrest is in order.
Yeah, sure. We'll increase the powers of possibly Earthshake with his steps. I feel like he needs to be bigger. Can we make him bigger?
He will get bigger at some point.
Okay.
Like, in theory, he goes up to medium size, but, like, he already kind of looks medium as is, so he's
Oh,
gonna
yeah,
look large.
I am surprised to learn he is not medium.
He's gonna look large, so I think he is world shakes with his steps.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like to really get world shakes with his steps, he should probably be huge, but I will accept large, or apparently large, as good enough. Hang on, this isn't where I'm heading.
The random encounters are an issue because they are basically always battles. They get tiring really quick, and like if this was being run by like a GM, eventually, all right, that's enough random battles for a while.
Yeah, it's also like they have absolutely no context to them. They don't need a ton, right? Like a single line or two of dialogue just establishing who these guys are and why they care to attack us would have done miles for them. And
Right.
also, you should be able to clear them out. Like, how many times have we been attacked by bandits by now? The bandits thing is done. If you're out of elaborations on that concept, just stop having them.
Like, at one point we ran into a black dragon, which we killed. And then because of how I am cursed by Fortuna, we ran into 2 black dragons, and so Camiolas had them be the first black dragon's siblings. There was a context to it.
Right. We ran into just a ludicrous number of shambling mounds early on. So I threw in a scene towards the end of the first book where one of the Spring Fae, like a really powerful one, was going around animating them. Stuff like that. This is obviously harder to do for a video game because you can't know in advance like how players are going to react to different random encounters, but you can still stock it with things like the regardless of exactly how they interacted with the black dragon, you could have the later encounter with 2 black dragons be that black dragon's siblings. That still fundamentally works.
Honestly,
And
like
also-
in this case, I would.
Well, you can also say that every, like the black dragon are just immediately hostile. There's no option not to fight them. That is, like, definitely a lame thing to do as a... Oh, hey, they're fighting each other. Let me kill the trolls first, then. I don't know why I didn't notice that until just now. But yeah, in a tabletop RPG, you obviously want that to not be the case. Ah, you're branded. But I will accept it as a limitation of video games. But yeah, no, they're just entirely context-free. Even this one is actually not so bad. Trolls are fighting bandits. There is a sort of an implicit story there, in that these guys are not friends. If the trolls and the bandits, or really even just the bandits, because the trolls are new, if the bandits felt more like characters prior to this point, in these random encounters, then I would be entirely satisfied with the idea of, oh, hey, those bandits who are lying all over the place, who are like a real faction of people who have some manner of unifying ideology, even if that ideology is just that might makes right, whatever. But, that they actually say something, even if it's only one line when they show up. Well, they're fighting trolls. Okay, that's interesting. That's a development. That would work. But as it is, they're just red dots, which means... not good enough. I do really want to emphasize, it doesn't take a lot, right? A single line at the start of each of these encounters would have been enough. You cannot shut down bandit or troll regeneration.
This will hurt.
That prone troll is not having a good day. Aha, got him.
Everything is like, eventually you can just have the random encounters stop. Like,
Yeah.
within the context
that
of the video game, I think like once you claim a territory, go away would be a good idea. Like, it's part of your kingdom, there are no more random encounters.
Yeah. And I mean, if they had had the random encounters have some kind of, uniqueness to them, then I would have been okay with the default being that clearing out all the random encounters is a prerequisite for getting, adding a place to your kingdom. But given that they are basically just contextless battles, which, like, for the record, yeah, obviously I can, figure out for myself what a bunch of bandits are probably after here. Like, it's not that I can't piece together their motivations. It's just that, because they make no reference to them, they feel a lot less real than if, bandits actually popped out of the bushes and said, your GP or your HP, the first time you encountered some. And hang on. I need acid on these guys. There we are. Yeah, and then it's not that hard to come up with ways to develop random encounters, over time. Just
Yeah.
have the bandits start to recognize you, and have an intimidate skill check for running them off without having to fight them, because they recognize you and they know that you've killed a bunch of their friends. Have an endless parade of bandit archers show up at the gates of your city asking if you need any more troops.
We kept saying yes. Or should we talk about what would have been Sullivan's greatest scheme had it happened? It did not end up panning out, but I don't know that there's a context that we can bring it up organically.
That's fair. It does rely, if I'm thinking of the appropriate one, which I think I am, yeah, it does rely rather heavily on the fake courts, which are not in the original tabletop version, and therefore not in this version either. Why are you still alive? Die.
She called him a rascal. So it's still trying to figure out a way to get the Summer Court to recognize the passion that mortals can have. So I came up with a plan, and this plan I was not going to divulge to Chamomile because it relied upon his incessant desire to cause me pain for it to work. So what I did, we had upgraded some of our bandits into knights. So I'm like, all right, so which of our knights? I want to find our least ugly knight. And I think I ended up rolling pretty well. I found a rather attractive knight among our knights. And what I was going to do is I was going to instigate a love triangle between Selwyn, this knight, and the Summer Court Fae that she had danced with. And the Summer Court Fae are not supposed to harm any mortals with the walls of the city, but they could harm mortals outside of the city. And when we'd done the dance, they were trying to trick me into getting the immortals to leave the city so they could hurt them. So my plan was I was going to instigate this love triangle. Then what I was going to do, I was going to accidentally put the knight in a position where he was outside of the city. I was going to make sure that the Summer Court Fae were aware of that, And since Chamomile would not be able to resist an opportunity to cause me pain, he would have the Summer Court say, kill this knight, at which point Selwyn could turn to the Summer Court and be like, hey, why did you kill this random mortal? Were you threatened by his passion? Like, did you think that he had a chance of winning me over you? Like, the only reason you could think that is if you thought he was passionate enough. So it would have been a check-and mate situation. I would have turned Chamomile's desire to cause me pain against him.
Unfortunately, the apocalypse hit before the master plan.
That one it ended up not being necessary because we just once we removed Mother Sorrow from.
Oh yeah, that's true. Which, thinking about it now, kind of makes it like much better. That like you had this cunning plot, and then at some point you realized, oh, or I could maybe stop terrorizing the citizens I am attempting to use as an example of mortal passion.
I wasn't terrorizing them.
What the hell? I don't know what is up with Mugtwumpy.
Somebody caused fear on him.
Ah. Roll that necromancer. Okay. I keep missing these trolls with my acid and my fire. So we're
It's
just
weird because
going...
you're playing on easy baby mode. But yeah, so if I pulled that off, it would have been green text level worthy.
Right?
Like, I think had that happened, like, there would have been, like, a shift in reality, and I would have... Yeah. Cameo is now paying me money. That was actually my initial plan to escape from Arkansas, was to pull this off, have it cause a reality quake, and then I would have been in Utah.
It's as when, you know, Michael solved the unsolvable puzzle in Magnus Archives. Yep, so it is now purely just... Okay, fine. I guess he is feared for a good long while now. Yeah, it is now purely just a matter of slinging spells at these, Okay, got the trolls down. There is one guy left. Let's go ahead, kill him real quick.
I guess it's concealment because it's raining or something.
I should pop into town and sell all my stuff. It's getting to be rather a lot. Should have done that between episodes. There's actually, you know, a good opportunity to do that off camera.
Well, now we don't have to spend any of our money on twinks, because we have enough twinks.
We have as many as we can have. I feel like saying that we have enough twinks is the wrong way of putting it. Really, there's never enough, but we can't have any more, so...
I tire. rest is in order.
You guys are tiring out in a hurry? Maybe it's because we're in the forest. What could be in this overgrown pool? Sure, herbs, why not? Oh hey, people who aren't immediately trying to kill us. Once again, reflexively hitting spacebar, hoping that it will make things go faster, but instead it pauses things. Are you a treasurer?
It is not. We should definitely side with the Fae here.
She's a hag, you say? Okay, if I solve the problem with force, do I then get to decide which side to use force upon? Or is it going to... Because I feel like if it's not going to let me choose, then it is going to default to using force against the Fae there, which is definitely not what we want. I'm real nervous about this. I'm going to try to reason with them, because I think being forced to, accidentally backing myself into the corner of having to fight a Fae is,
We want to side with the Fae because we are a Fae.
Right, so I'm going to reason with them. I feel like the diplomacy option here is pretty good.
Hey, don't call me a human.
Yeah, excuse
How dare
me.
First of all, like, in the game, I'm not a human. So we'll go find these feathers. Or we can convince him to go do that. Okay, I guess we'll have to find the feathers. How are you doing so bad on these skill rolls?
I mean, I got them all up until that one.
Like, I got those.
Yeah, I don't know what the problem is. God damn it. And now we will murder a random wolf.
Selwyn is twinked out for diplomacy, so this should all be easy. Look, the one BC's treasure.
See here, her diplomacy twink.
Imagine Ashlyn is the most charismatic, since he's a bard.
I mean, the joke there is mainly just that,
We can do it.
she's twinked out for diplomacy, but most of her twink's primary purpose is murder, so... This is what twink diplomacy looks like, I guess. Diplomacy!
This should do it.
another limitation of tabletop game of
Christ, I was not
RPGs
even
compared to
answered there.
tabletop is some of the fun utility. A lot of the fun utility stuff is not available. Like, Speak with Animals is a level 1 spell. So in theory, a druid should be able to negotiate their way out of a conflict with an animal. But like, I saw a tier list for Pathfinder for the not for Pathfinder for the video game specifically that is quite different from what you usually see as a tier list.
Yeah, the
Druids were bad, like.
like ordinarily, utility spells are basically God because they allow you to oftentimes solve an entire encounter without having to roll a single die, or sometimes with rolling just a single die, usually an enemy makes a save, and if they fail that save, then, they are charmed or whatever, and that's it. The encounter is just, you win. Which is just, so much better than someone whose contribution to the encounter is that, okay, if they... No, I don't want to. Oh, yeah, the third one, that's what I want. Yeah, someone's contribution to the encounter is, that they do a little bit of extra damage in a 5-round combat. That just kind of pales in comparison to, I cast Speak with Animals. It's a level 1 spell, and we're level 6, so I don't even care. And one skill check later, and the encounter is solved.
Yeah, everybody should have, like, stuff they're doing for utility. And, like, there's some abilities that, like, even if they're not spells, there should be stuff that, like, other classes can pick up. Like, I can see Rangers and Barbarians learning how to talk with animals. Like, not even as a spell, just being able to learn how to talk to animals. It's one of those things that, that would make sense.
Right. Haven't we met her before?
Yeah, she was in the very start
Right.
when they got attacked.
So it's saying, an unusual petitioner approaches you, a tiefling girl who appears to be a foreigner from the south. Like, why are you describing her like we don't know her?
So none of the character arcs in the game really go off properly. So you're going to get an opportunity to recruit her, and the recruitment quest is going to reveal, like, essentially be her companion quest and reveal a big secret about her. There should have been some time between her being recruited and her being
Right.
and her secret getting revealed. I'm trying to complete Valerie's companion quest, and, like, part of the problem is I have not been using Valerie because she's terrible because they deliberately messed up her character, and I don't care. Like, I don't like her particularly. None of the pre-built companions are super compelling anyways.
That sounded terrible and dangerous and terribly dangerous. If we
Lindsay kind of sounds like she's speaking from, like, a dungeon cell as she says this. Like, there's an echo to her voice.
Right. I think it is supposed to kind of, like, make her sound sort of distant and dreamlike, with the idea being that she is, that this is the voice of her writing rather than her speaking directly in the narrative. But I don't think it's working.
Sullivan put her in the dungeon for crimes against literature.
Oh, this probably just so wants for me to recruit a treasurer. And now I'm stuck on the loading screen for it.
Nope, you solved the giant weed problem.
Fantastic. And the eight-legged plague.
And the troll invasion. And a traveler waits at the castle. Ooh. Oh no, that was, what's her face? The tiefling.
Right.
she is a kineticist, which I think we could briefly talk about the kineticist as a class. It's not super interesting.
I mean, you say
Like, you do this.
It basically just needs to be you,
Okay.
because I don't really know much about this.
So the kineticist class is essentially like a bender from Avatar. They were not very good in the tabletop. Like, they do a lot of damage, but essentially no utility. Also, they made them. They're the only Constitution-based caster. They use Constitution as their spellcasting stat, which I feel like using Constitution as your spellcasting stat should not be an entire class. That should be like an archetype for one class, which they did have as a witch archetype that they got rid of when they made the kineticist. But like, the thing is, like, I really feel like classes having to use one of the mental stats is generally a good thing. Like, it makes them have a little more personality, since, you know, intelligence, wisdom, and charisma are all mental stats. They're part of your mind, so they inform your personality. Whereas if you can dump all of those stats, you end up just being kind of bland. Like, I have 10 intelligence, 10 charisma, and 8 wisdom. I don't really have a personality to speak of.
Right.
So I feel like when you're making a spellcaster or even one of the 6 or 4 classes, having them have to put a little bit at least into one of the mental stats is a good idea. And if you want to have a Constitution caster, you should just that should be like a specific niche, not an entire class. It also affects your utility, since most skills are tied to a mental stat. Like, it's nice that like sorcerers get to be diplomats, and then wizards get to know stuff, and then clerics get sort of intuitive, like perception-based stuff. But then the kineticist doesn't get any of that because all their mental stats are dumb stats, like they were a fighter. Those are my thoughts on the kineticist. I don't know if based on that if you would agree or disagree.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I disagreed more, because that's a conversation we can have. But yeah, no, that all sounds quite reasonable.
Like, they should have been charisma casters, and then maybe you have an archetype. Because again, archetypes are one of the things that I honestly feel like Pathfinder did really well. Like, just have an archetype that, oh, this kind of kineticist uses Constitution instead of charisma.
Yeah.
Or wisdom. I could see kineticist being wisdom too. Depending on how hard you're leaning on Avatar: The Last Airbender, like,
Yeah.
it's kind of innate, because like Avatar goes back and forth on this. Like, it kind of seems like it's an innate thing, which is usually charisma, but then it also seems to be like related to your level of spirituality, which is more wisdom. So
Yeah, it's like you have to have an innate capacity for it, but then cultivating it is based on, and ultimately, you know, now that I'm thinking about it, I really think that it might just be that D&D 6 stats aren't very good in the first place, and they have sort of been retrofitted to work in the Arcane Divine Divide, which I think I think the Arcane Divine Divide can potentially be interesting, but it doesn't map to Eastern tropes very well at all, which Avatar is pretty well mired in. I say mired, it's not a bad thing, but
like, wisdom especially is this weird hybrid of like perception and willpower. Like,
yeah.
which of these is the most Selwyn? So it's depressing that we cannot get her in like a good like floor-length dress.
Like, she has this very, like, utilitarian-looking outfit, where that is not Selwyn at all. Like, she used to be a beautiful fairy queen.
Yeah, you really can't customize the appearance of your people much at all. Besides, you can upload practically anything you want from portraits, which is nice. But the neutral one feels the most Selwyn to me. I mean, she's definitely hitting all the right notes to get Selwyn to, a distraught peasant.
Also, this is the quest that'll get us to Old Beldam. So one thing, like, with the companions, like, I always like when you have a companion who is, like, unique, like Shale in Dragon Age Origins is a golem.
Right.
Like, and it's not like there's a golem class or race you can pick. Shale's just a golem, or Fenris has this unique ability to, like, phase through things. Like, I like that. None of the Kingmaker companions are that way. When there's a very obvious that would have worked in this game is having a companion who is a Fae. Like, the Gathlane race was already released at this point. I think the Naiad race was as well. It might have been too soon too close to when the game was released for them to have incorporated it in, but why there's not a Fae companion? Like, there should obviously have been a Fae companion. Like, even if they had to make something up, like make a unique class for, like, oh, this is your Dryad. Like,
Yeah. Having at least one or two really out there companions is always a good thing in an RPG. Like, at the time of writing, The Lord of the Rings was a bizarre mishmash of, strange and unusual races, which sounds weird now, but Gary Gygax, like, his primary influence was Conan, and
Conan, basically everyone's human, right?
yeah, and so his primary influence was Conan and other swords and sorcery stories, and he had this really passive-aggressive hate-on for the Fellowship base, because, the player base really liked Lord of the Rings, and so they were always clamoring for Legolas and Gimli. Does Selwyn want to drive this bandit from her lands? Or accept him as her follower? I cannot come to an immediate decision, so I'm once again going to assume that the party, in this as in the tabletop, is pressuring Selwyn into accepting all bandits all the time.
And it affected our loyalty and our economy very badly.
This is always a good decision. Always more bandits. As many bandits as we can feed.
So when the kingdom collapses, what game do you think we'll play next? I was thinking a science fiction game. Like, because then we can talk about, like, cyberpunk and, like, cyborg feminism.
I think it's a little bit early to start talking about that. It's going to be at least you know, 2, maybe even 3 episodes before the kingdom collapses.
So I don't know if we talked about this, but Sullivan was a naiad, which was primarily because like it was either the naiad or the Gathbane were the only 2 playable Fae. Like I guess looking back, I probably could have asked Cam about doing some sort of homebrew race, but like didn't super know him at the time, and homebrew stuff is always a lot of DMs are a little wary about that. But I go back and forth about whether Selwyn like should have been like a she or some sort of flower fairy, because like that would be more fitting with her personality. But it was kind of like a fun little quirk that she was also a naiad.
It's true.
Like. Selwyn having like little fairy wings would have fit with who she was, but the fact that she was like would retreat, it would like jump in the river at the first opportunity was kind of fun. I don't know if you have a opinion on that.
Well, it's just, there is, you know, sometimes a constraint on creativity can, you know, provoke it. Like, there's definitely something to be said for rolling up something randomly on a table, like, you know, some collection of traits randomly on a table, and saying, okay, make a character out of this. Like, you know, make a personality out of this. And that's, you know, being limited to the naiad does sort of serve as an accidental form of that. I don't care about Erastil. Right. Well, hurry up, Kiernan. I need you for everything. Okay,
Well, think of Zeke.
for now.
Some of Zeke's personality was the result of me having to come up with a bunch of outside interests for him for the backgrounds. Like...
Yeah, although with that one, like, it's not really constraints so much, and you can also get creativity from this. It's one of the reasons why, like, often when I'm trying to come up with things, I'll sort of set myself the task, I'm going to come up with 13 things, because 13 is, 1, high enough that you really have to start digging deep for creativity, and 2, a fun, spooky number. But, you know, like 10 or 12 or whatever work pretty much exactly as well. If you're lame,
Hey, Magnus Archives got up to 14 or possibly 15.
But yeah, it's just basically when you're trying to fill in a very large list of things, it can have the same sort of effect of, you know, sort of prompting you to really dig in deep for some non-obvious stuff. Like, you know, you go ahead and start with the obvious stuff, sure, but, you know, the goal is to make a list big enough that you can't fill it with the obvious stuff, so then you have to start fishing around for more interesting things.